It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
All right, guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I am Harry Wilmington, as always, and today we have on two special guests, Dr. Michael and Barbara Grossman, founders of the website fallinginloveforever.com. Now, they have been married for 40 plus years, and for 30 years, they've helped couples who are facing relationship problems learn the tools that they need to help them have fulfilling romantic partnerships. They are also the authors of the books, The Marriage Map, Transforming Your Marriage from Ordeal to Adventure, and the soon-to-be-released Ageless Love, The Sexy Science of Falling in Love Forever. Dr. Barbara, Dr. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been telling my audience I wanted to start interviewing. I'm always interviewing experts for the show, but also I want to interview married couples who have been in it for the long haul and can really give some rock solid advice. And I came across your guys' page and saw that you guys also deal in helping people with conflicts in their marriage, which I always wanted to give guys advice and help about. So before we get into that, though, I always ask my guests, what were your dating lives like prior to meeting each other?
Well, we met in college. I was 19, Barbara was 18. And so we each had certain people that we dated. And for me, I had never dated somebody that was interested in those things I was interested in. I am interested in spirituality, intellectual philosophy. And so I had dated people who were nice and sweet and interesting to some extent, but Barbara was different. I could actually think about things, and we had that common interest, which was really appealing. And so that's what made dating Barbara different, is that I could really talk to her about things that I enjoyed talking about, which it didn't happen with these other ladies.
You know, my parents gave me some advice. I watched my mother date. She was a single mother, actually. And I watched her date. She dated quite a few guys, actually. And it's back in the day. This is the 50s. And what I saw in her life was that she believed she taught me to look for a good man, good person. That was, the essence of things. And so I have had a series of very good people as boyfriends. I think I had one cowboy boyfriend, and I realized I was in over my head. And so I knew to look for goodness. But when it's not so much a strategic kind of experience to date, but you want to be open, you want to share yourself, and you want to feel the affinities. So you want to look for character, but you also want to be, look for affinities and not just be moved by sexual attraction. So sexual attraction should be there, but there's layers of things that you need to be checked off. And if you have good conversations and you're authentic, you will connect with, you'll know who you connect with, and it'll be real. And so if I were to coach people to have lots of conversations with lots of different people, and see, and follow the feeling of connection, and not so much look at the physical. That's not the first priority.
Do you find those conversations will help to lead to kind of getting an idea of what really works for you?
Right. You'll discover yourself by what gives you energy and what doesn't. And you'll also learn about another human being. And it's the same process as meeting friends. There's certain people that you're just attracted to, that you just want to spend time with. You have certain, temperamental affinities and areas of interest that just create excitement. And if you're open and self-disclosing, and you connect the meaning of what your conversation's about, it just grows relationships. And so if you follow that organic energy, that gives you a lot of information. And then, there's other things you need to look at for. You need to look for, does the person you're talking with take responsibility in their lives? Do they have a direction? And then you want to know if they have, fairly solid relationships with their family, given if their family is good people. And, so there's character issues to check out. A lot of people don't think about all those things. They just think about chemistry. And that gets to be a cul-de-sac, especially if you're older and you don't see that you have a lot of time to waste dating 20 more relationships before you make decisions. You want to be a good assessor of your connection.
You said the thing about family. Like how important is it to really see, like, you're looking at the other person, how well they get along with their family or what their family dynamic is?
And everybody's got complexity in their family, because families we're together by birth, not necessarily we don't choose our family, at least consciously. It's good to have a sense that the prospective partner has a certain loyalty to family, and a respect for their family. They may have issues with their family and be disappointed by various things, but they're taking a responsible road to resolving those feelings and being a responsible family person, as long as that family person isn't impossible to get along with and who can't return the same kind of responsibility towards them. Most people have complicated stories, but you can see the maturity level of a person, how they have resolved their feelings about their family.
So what attracted you to Dr. Michael?
Well, to tell you the truth, I actually met Michael on a bus going to Washington, D.C. for a march on Washington against the war in Vietnam.
Oh,
and
wow.
He didn't, he was very attentive to my friend. It was really, so corny that I didn't like the vibe. So my first impression was not positive. Later on, there were opportunities for him to talk, and it was very an odd circumstance where Michael was missing a tooth. He had some dental work, and I don't know if I ever thought about it, but I observed that when someone is missing a tooth, they don't look very intelligent. I was delayed in comprehending who Michael was, but we had lots of opportunities to interact. And I think what was very formative is one of our professors recommended to Michael that he speak to me about my paper, because she thought it would be relevant to his interests. And
Okay.
and because of that introduction, I was willing to have a serious conversation with him, and I discovered that he was very thoughtful and had had concerns that matched mine about the connection with the world as we know it, and what the possibilities for creating a better world is, spiritually and through certain values from deeper layers of our culture. We had lots of deep conversations, and I think I fell in love with him watching the movie Women in Love, because we took that movie apart. It's a remake of D.H. Lawrence's story, and we took that movie apart like a surgeon's knife. And his analysis of the characters and I saw the depths of Michael's personality and his willingness to search for truth and meaning. And I fell in love with him at that first date.
Oh, wow. That's such a nice story.
But I knew him a long time before the first date, because I wasn't excited about him.
So how long did you know him leading up to when you guys had the first date?
Some number of months.
Well, a few months, yeah.
Okay. And then how long was your guys' courtship, and then what was the courtship like?
We were dating and very intimate for like about a year. And then I asked Barbara to get married.
So Michael had a condition that I had to meet. He wanted me to learn to meditate. So we were, he was very forthright about putting that on the table. And I was somewhat resistant to that. I had my own version of spirituality, and I wasn't, his version of meditation was Eastern, and I'm a Western girl. And so we, negotiated that over a long period of time, but I gave in and I learned to meditate, and that was very important to him.
What was so important about, for you, Dr. Michael, about wanting her to learn how to meditate?
Spirituality is an important part of our lives. And I wanted her to be a part of my experience of spirituality. So learning to meditate opens you up to a whole different layer of inner experience that you can share and talk about, but it's an inner experience. So I felt it was very important that she demonstrate that, yes, she's willing to go on this adventure of life, And part of the adventure is learning to meditate. And it's it's like, it's not actually a religion, but it's an inner spiritual experience that you then share. We've been meditating for now 50 years or something. And I've written a book on meditation, and I've taught thousands of people meditation. So it's a part of our lives, and we've lectured on it and so on. So I knew back then it was very important to me, and I wanted her to agree to do it. So she reluctantly agreed to do it. And I remember her coming out of the room where she learned to meditate, and she couldn't help but smile and says, "Oh, I really, really liked it." And I really didn't want to like it. She wanted to be able to say, "Oh, it's really nothing," but it was really very special to her.
And Dr. Barbara, what made you end up liking meditating?
Well, it was a new experience for me. It did open up some doors. That's not the last chapter on the subject of our conversations about spirituality, because I continue to be basically a Western girl, and we've had a lot of creative conversations. We have a very creative, relationship with lots of interesting projects. I'm definitely Western, and I have brought Michael. I've influenced Michael a lot by bringing him to psychological experiences and Western forms of practices that have helped him grow in lots of ways. And that's an important part of our relationship. And I would say while we do it in a certain way that seems eccentric or unique, I think the purpose of partnership generally is that kind of back and forth sharing and trading and stretching that allows each partner to grow. And you have a it's like a buddy system where you have feedback that's better than any other feedback you can get, even from a psychologist. Because the person knows you and stretches you and tells you what's missing or what isn't smooth. And we've done that for each other. So Michael's added to my life by opening up the doors of this inner experience of connection to, in consciousness and connection to a universe that's very big and that's powerful. And I've connected him to the world of how important it is to really know yourself and be open emotionally and share intimately and connect with people. And so, our left and our right brains are constantly stimulated by each other.
In every couple, each of you have certain things that you bring as your strength and certain things that you have as your weakness. And what you can do as a couple is you can support each other and bring your strengths there and have your weaknesses supported by your partner who has other strengths. And so we've done that through our whole relationship. And so certainly I am blessed by Barbara pressing me to get involved in activities that focus on your own psychological integration, which is really important for your own growth and development. And I have pressed Barbara to get involved with things that expand your brain. In our book, Ageless Love, we talk about the right and left sides of your brain. Mm-hmm. So the right side of your brain is the side that focuses on the big picture of things. And it's like when you drive your car, you have to look at the big picture of driving. If you focus on any one thing, you're going to have an accident. You can't keep looking at one sign or one car. You've got to see the whole picture. And that part of your brain is what allows you to see the big picture of your life. And you need to meditate to learn how to use this part of your brain and expand this part of your brain. It's really, really critical. The other part of your brain, the left part of your brain, focuses on specific problems, specific issues in your life, and you analyze it and look at it. And it's very important to have that part of your life develop. It develops your personality in different ways. But ultimately, you need to have a balance, but you want the right part of the brain to be in charge. And so we talk about that in our book. And so we bring that back and forth for each other. And people grow throughout their lives in these different ways. And at certain points, you're more into that big picture of your brain. And at certain points of your life, you're more into that focused part of your brain.
I want to make sure you don't get the idea that our lives have been a cakewalk, even though.
Oh, no. We're going to get into that. Okay. I never believe in any relationship that everything's just always 100% fantastic.
Good.
So you guys get married. And so I guess I want to know, like, early on in your marriage, were there any major conflicts that you two faced during your relationship that were tumultuous or were really hard to get through?
as a female, marrying young. So I married before I was, competent and finished my PhD and all of that. So I was still very, very adaptable. I was willing to go along with Michael's plans for meditation and support him in his internship and residency. And I was like an accommodating wife. And eventually, and I had babies, which is a big challenge for a woman, because she becomes, the support person and not so much the leader of her own life and development. And so I had accommodated and was a support player for Michael. And at some point I woke up and realized that I was ignoring my own values, and my experience, my perception of Michael's Eastern meditation was that it was lacking compassion, it was lacking connection, and that I had willingly submitted to something that wasn't consistent with my other values. And I challenged Michael to integrate himself and become a more feeling, caring man. I knew he was capable of it because he had been that way when we first met, but he had become very kind of transcendent, or he was transpersonal. He wasn't as caring a man as I wanted him to be. And he did not understand what I was talking about, because he was so focused on these very idealistic goals. And it took it took a long time to communicate and get Michael's understanding of what kind of caring and softness that I was looking for. And ultimately he was willing to grow in that direction. And then we started growing together. That was just important to me as a woman, that caring, listening, open-hearted interaction is like food. And since it was missing, we were just busy, Michael was busy working and building his career, and I was busy nurturing the kids and trying to connect up with my schoolwork so I could finish my own vocational goals. We got lost in the shuffle of that. And I think that's almost inevitable in couples, because you don't just stay in a romantic dating relationship. You have the full burden of life's responsibilities that fall on you. And you need more in life than what you have when you start to meet all those responsibilities. And I needed Michael to be an emotional partner with all of this new, added responsibilities in life. And he came through for that, which was fabulous. But if he hadn't, we'd be in big trouble.
Now, Dr. Michael, because I know this is like what you're saying, Dr. Barbara. I know a lot of guys will come, like they'll hear their significant other say, I need you to be there, more caring, more kind, more emotional. And a lot of times we don't know how to translate that, because we're like, but I'm making money to support you. I'm bringing money to the kids and do this. So Dr. Michael, when you heard these things, what was your initial reaction? And then how were you able to get to a place where you could kind of better understand what she was meaning?
You're making me think about one particular time that really epitomized the whole problem.
Okay.
So just as you described, I came home after a whole day of working at the hospital, at the office, 11 o'clock at night, whatever. I'm exhausted. I come home, come in the front door, and Barbara says to me, I want to talk to you. I say, please, I'm really, really tired. Let's talk tomorrow. And she said, what'd you say?
I don't remember.
And then she says something like, oh, you never have time to talk to me. And then I say something like, oh, you're so selfish. You only think about yourself. And we get into this big fight. And here we are arguing. I'm just trying to go to sleep. I'm trying to get undressed, get into bed. And she's just going on and on. You won't talk to me. You're not available to talk. You're too busy with all your stuff. And we have this tremendous fight, and we're screaming at each other. I just want to go to bed. She wants me to listen to each other. There's a thunderstorm going on, and the thunderstorm, and don't have that many in Southern California. There's the lightning and thunder, and the lightning and thunder gets closer and closer together. And then it happens at the same time. The boom and the lightning happen at the same time. And the lightning comes down the chimney of our fireplace, and it sprays sparks all over our bedroom, and it lights it up like the middle of the day. And I thought the house was going to burn down, but it didn't. The sparks just, went away. And we just look at each other, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we have to do this better. And so that became a inspiration that we would have to learn how to listen to each other better, how to talk to each other better, how to deal with our different ways of seeing the world together. We tried counseling, was not very effective.
I was wondering, like, how were the counselors and stuff? And like, I've heard other stories from other people that say they've gone to counseling and they just didn't seem effective. What did you find ineffective about the counseling you went to?
They would either just listen to us talk, or they would take one person's side or the other, which wasn't very helpful. And we went to a variety of counselors, and it just didn't resolve anything. What did help us was going to mentors.
We found mentors. At the time I was working as a chaplain at St. Joseph Hospital, my supervisor just loved us. He loved us into understanding each other. And we had another man who came into our lives who had focused on how men and women can work together, given that we're different in many ways. He met with us over a period of 6 months and taught us skills on how to listen and resolve problems. And he was such an inspiration. And he also loved us, that we eventually figured out how to turn that into courses and classes so that lots of couples could take advantage of the skills that we had learned.
And that's what it takes. It takes skills, because you don't want to solve a problem for the couple. That's not going to get you very far. You can't live in their house and solve the problem each time, but rather you have to teach the couple the skills they need to solve their own problems, to be able to, when you listen to someone who's different than you. If I listen to Barbara, I have to stop trying to correct her, stop trying to fix her, and just try to see how she sees the world and why she sees it that way, and vice versa. So that then we can actually have the skills that we need to move past whatever are the upsets. So each couple will have different upsets, but you can be sure the upsets will be there as you go through what we described in the beginning, that you're going to go through different phases in your life. When you're in your 20s, it's different than when you're in your late 30s. It's different than when you're in your 50s and 60s. It's just different. And you've got to have the skills to listen to each other.
Why do you think it is that people have such a hard time being able to objectively see the perspective of the other person they're with?
Well, we've become a very individualistic society, and both men and women are trying to be successful. And for the most part, the culture is encouraged both men and women to be masculine, to be looking to accomplish goals, and to be dynamic. I don't know that it's easy for this generation to articulate their very personal emotional needs. It's not fashionable to be feminine and masculine. We're all the same, right? That the culture promotes this. We're all the same. And, we are very much the same, but we're not entirely the same. And, we need to be able to really hear those distinctions, because that speaks to that very personal love that each of us needs. So I'm a believer that, most women want competent men. That's heresy these days. And most men want women who appreciate them and respect them. That's also not something that people are comfortable saying in public, but that's how I see it. I think men, need appreciation, like they need air and water, and they need to be respected. And we get into this, equality, right, wrong conversations, and no one wins them. And there's in a conflict with a couple, both partners are right, but you have to understand the rightness of each person, and you need skills to be able to hold on to yourself while you're hearing a very different point of view, and hear it with compassion.
That's true. And I do think that, because of that, I think a lot of times, I know, men will hear women coming to a viewpoint about something and how they're expressing it, and guys are just kind of like, oh my God, so much emotion involved, yada, yada, yada. But I also feel like, men our logic is different. And I think a lot of times, because ours is so matter of fact without emotion, that ours gets seen by women as uncaring or not kind. And it's that's not really the case. It's just we process things different, and there's nothing wrong with that on either side, but both sides have to be appreciative, because, the compassion women bring to those kind of things that men maybe don't have, maybe they need that to be able to understand better how to move forth in something. And that's not always taken, in a nice way.
Right. It's a both end situation, not a either or. And and it's really, it's the culture has made relationships harder for sure.
Definitely. So in your guys' practice, what are the main relationship problems that you find oftentimes couples run into?
We have a series of 5 video classes, a set of 3 videos in each class, in each module. And so one thing is parenting, big complexity for couples. If the couple doesn't see and agree on how to do parenting together, it creates huge upsets in the relationship. So that's one thing. Second thing would be when you don't feel like you're number one with your partner. If your partner is really into their business or their career and you're kind of pushed out to the side and you're not feeling that deep connection.
Or friends or alcohol or a sports team,
Right. And then the other issue can be issues with money, upsets regarding money. Are you in agreement with how you deal with money in your relationship? You have to have that figured out. That'd be a big issue in relationships. The other thing would be sex, and how is the sexual activity functioning in your relationship? And there's a huge amount of complexities. One of the things that I do as an anti-aging longevity doctor is I help people as they get older. You lose the hormones that you need for staying youthful, and that has a huge effect upon sexual functioning. And I do a lot of that. That's what one of my main things to do as an anti-aging doctor. And then the last thing would be arguing. That you can get into this arguing phase, and you need specific skills to deal with arguing, and we teach that. It's very, very essential.
Yeah, especially like the whole, people get into cyclical arguments where it's just, things keep coming back up and it's the same argument over and over again,
right,
without anybody ever jumping off the wheel or figuring out how to like land this plane.
Exactly. That's right. Very.
That's a tough one. So in those kind of situations, though, usually I find that people aren't really listening to each other, or they're trying to talk over each other. So, and these are tools that people don't oftentimes have when they're going into relationships. They think everything's going to be all rosy or whatever. So how can one become better at listening to their partner's perspective or critique on an issue without, taking it personally, and with actually being able to be open to listening to them?
Well, we actually teach people in person and online a structure for how to listen. And it has to do with, giving each partner a certain amount of time and not interrupting, and having a time limit, and then going and thinking about it and coming back to it, and not having not having the back and forth arguments, but actually digesting what you've heard and having a chance to articulate what you think and feel, and taking time. And
it's a real structured program. When we do the program, we have all these rules, and you both have to agree to the rules ahead of time. Here's how you're going to have this conversation. And you have to have appointments, and you have a timer, and you do it. And then once it's over, you don't talk about anything. You cannot keep discussing it. But you come back the next day, you have another discussion about it. What it does, it presses you to really listen to them, because you're not allowed to say, oh, no, it didn't happen that way. Oh, no, you shouldn't think that. Oh, no, I didn't really mean it that way. You can't say anything. And you really just have to see their point of view. And it may take you some weeks to begin to see their point of view without interacting with it emotionally, just to listen to it. And once you can listen to it, then you see all of a sudden, oh, you're not doing that to be mean and cruel to me. You're actually doing it because when you were 2 years old, you lost your father. Barbara lost her natural father when she was 2. And that's why she has all these weird requests of me. And so it takes time for me to realize she's not doing it to punish me. She has her own peculiar view of the world that leads her to say, oh, I really need for this and this and this to happen, and so forth.
So it sounds like part of that exercise is also teaching people to not initially react so emotionally. Because I know, like, when we hear critiques, we can be very much like, oh, this person's attacking me and I feel this certain way, versus like really actually listening. That's like, cool. Hey, let me like calm down before I jump in and get at this person.
Yes, we create the conditions for calmness and openness. And there's no pressure on solving things. You want to learn to share. And you just learn a lot about each other. And there are many times where I've heard Michael, with this orientation, I've heard Michael have the opportunity to speak his thoughts and feelings. And not only do I understand him, but I like his point of view sometimes better than mine. It's a whole different atmosphere for conversations.
Speaking of that, like I said, it takes you being open to the other person and vice versa. But what can hold couples back from being so open and vulnerable with their significant other in the first place? Like, what could cause them to not want to be so open and tell them the true emotions that they're feeling, or the true thoughts that they're having?
I think, we're, as human beings, we're fear-based. We're afraid we're going to lose something. We're afraid we'll be misunderstood. We're afraid that we won't be loved. And so that fear contracts our ability to reach in and share our full selves. And it creates those icky conversations that so many of us have.
It's funny too, because even if you're not feeling vulnerable with your partner to share something, inevitably it usually comes out later anyway. But then by that point, they usually feel like either mad at you or that you lied to them because you weren't vulnerable about something early on.
Fear works against openness and calmness. So you don't even have a chance to share yourself fully because you're so contracted inside. And so, having certain rules and going by the rules allows you to relax and open up.
Now, you guys have a few courses at your website where you help couples who may be in conflict. So feel free to let the audience know about what you have there available, whether it's your books, whether it's your programs, let them know where they can find all that stuff and what it entails.
People can go to agelesslovequiz.com, and there you have a little questionnaire that will lead you to see which of these courses and classes would be best for you. That will give you the most effective skills you need to make your relationship work. And so it's just a quick 3-minute quiz, and it would be really helpful for them to go there. People can go to our website, thefallinginloveforever.com, and that will lead you to both the courses and classes and our books. And we have several books, as you mentioned: The Marriage Map, The Road to Transforming Your Marriage from Ordeal to Adventure, and the new book, Ageless Love, The Sexy Science of Falling in Love Forever. That's where you can find all those various things that are available online. Anything else, my dear?
Well, where my thoughts go is, relationships evolve over time. And I would say that no matter how sweet the beginnings of your relationship are, there is an inevitable power struggle that occurs in most couples' lives. And it doesn't mean the relationship is bad and wrong, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, but it does mean that you have to grow through that and beyond that. And part of our purpose is to invite couples to grow through that in a effective way, because our culture needs couples who learn how to partner effectively and happily and raise their children together under the same roof. It will make such a difference to the stability and harmony of American culture. And my heart goes out to couples who are struggling through this, but these skills will get you through this, and you will rediscover each other and be, and it's almost like you can't believe you went through so much turmoil, because there's something very great on the other side of it. You become bigger, better people, but it is a rough transition for sure. And people can get confused about that and misinterpret it and conclude that they're not meant to be together. Now, there are reasons why couples shouldn't be together. There's drug use or unethical behavior of various kinds. But most challenges are just developmental, and partners can work through that and have a fantastic life on the other side. And we want that for our couples.
Nice. I did mean to actually ask you guys in those cycles, because obviously the honeymoon phase and how you start out in that feeling of love is going to feel different 5, 10, 15, 20 years later as things develop and evolve. Like, how do you work through those things, and how do you make it to where, like, you know, like there's going to be times where there's like a dip in how you feel for each other. How do you gain that back? How do you learn to appreciate the new version of who each other is?
Well, part of it is to understand what the developmental cycle is. So, you know, you have an understanding of what you're going through. So it's very hard for a woman to not have a developed self and have her own purposeful commitments when her guy is all, you know, developed and humming along with his career. And then when a woman finds herself and has developed a path that's meaningful and represents her talents, then there's usually, you know, a sharpness in who's right about things, because they both feel competent and successful in life. And on the other side of that development, when you've experienced, working success for a period of time, what opens up is the development of the heart. And so a lot of partners give up on their relationship before they come to that real, you know, the bounty of the heart and compassion and acceptance of each other, and the possibility of working together and weaving your life together for a greater good. And it, you know, it takes you through your 40s to get to that place. It's hard work, and you might say, oh, it's hard work, why should you do it? But it's also hard work to get divorced and go through custody battles and do all of that stuff and find another partner. And it starts all over again. It's great to just work with what you have and develop yourselves and use that to grow your personality and your character and expand your capacity to love yourself and others.
That's so true, because it definitely as you get older, it gets not necessarily harder to date per se, but just the opportunities become less, and then you have other things you're trying to focus on to where that's not as pertinent. So it's like the earlier you can get that, you know, set or situated, and then just say, I'm going to work with this person and commit to them, it seems like it's a better path to go.
Absolutely. It's an investment that pays off. I mean, I'm crazy about this man. I'm probably more in love with him now than I was when I was young.
Oh, well, thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Barbara, Dr. Mike, for coming on the show and just talking about conflict resolution and just how to make a marriage last a long time. Like, I'm sure my audience will be very appreciative of that message.
Thank you for having us.
A pleasure being with you.
And guys, for more of their stuff, you can go to fallinginloveforever.com. Check out they got amazing eBooks. They got programs. They got a couple of blogs up there. Like, check out their stuff. And then, you know, if you need some guidance with the person that you're with, then hit them up and see if they could help you out. For more of these shows, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can also go to youtube.com/HarryWilmington to check this out in video form. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips on attracting women using your natural introvert charm. Oh, yeah.